First Timothy is a pastoral epistle brimming with practical wisdom for church leadership and personal holiness. It is one of Paul's most personal letters written to his protege Timothy, whom he had entrusted with leading the church in Ephesus. Let's explore its background, themes, and key lessons. Uh, Paul wrote First Timothy around 62 to 64 AD, likely after his first Roman imprisonment. At this point, Timothy was serving as a pastor in Ephesus, a city with a vibrant but challenging church environment. It was a hub of trade, culture, but also center for idolatry, notably the worship of Artemis and false teachings. So this letter serves as both encouragement and a guidebook for Timothy, addressing specific challenges like doctrinal corruption, disordered worship, and the qualifications for church leaders. It's a deeply personal and practical letter that equips Timothy to shepherd the church well. So outlines are about sound doctrine and then church order and then personal godliness. So uh, first 20 verses of the first chapter, Paul opens with a warm greeting and reminds Timothy of his calling to confront false teachers. Some individuals in the Ephesian church were distorting the gospel, engaging in myths, genealogies, and meaningless speculations. Fifth verse, the goal of this command is love, which comes from a pure heart and a good conscience and a sincere faith. Paul highlights the proper use of the law, not for endless debates, but to expose sin and point people to the gospel. He shares his testimony as an example of God's grace, emphasizing that Christ came to save sinners. We can see this in the 15th verse. Here is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. And second chapter and third chapter, first to 16 verses, this particular portion, Paul urges the church to prioritize prayer, especially for the leaders and those in authority. So believers basically can live in a peaceful and godly life. So that's the motive of it. He emphasizes the universal scope of salvation and Christ's role as the one mediator between God and humanity. So second chapter 1 to 2 verses. I urge then, first of all, that petitions, prayers, and intercession and thanksgiving be made known for all people, for kings and all those in authority. So Paul also discusses appropriate roles for men and women in worship, focusing on modesty uh, and also good works and learning with a posture of humility. Now, third chapter, 13 verses. Paul outlines the character and the qualifications required for overseer, be it pastor or elder, and deacons. These roles demand integrity, self-control, hospitality, and a solid grasp of sound doctrine. So these are the qualifications. You can read this. Now the overseer is to be above all reproach, faithful to his wife, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, and able to teach. And it was also the same way deacons are to be worthy of respect, sincere, not indulging in much wine, and not pursuing dishonest gain. So these guidelines highlight that leadership is not about power, but about serving as a Christ-like example. Now, fourth chapter, 1 to 16 verses, Paul warns Timothy about future apostasy. where some will abandon faith and follow deceptive spirits. They abandon the faith and follow deceptive spirits and teachings. He encourages Timothy to train himself in godliness, staying focused on sound doctrine and avoiding pointless myths. You can see that in the 8th verse. For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both present and the life to come. Present life and life to come. So Paul urges Timothy to set an example in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity, reminding of the importance of his ministry. So 12th verse, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. Uh, 5th chapter, Paul provides guidance on how Timothy should interact with various groups in the church. Elders treat older men and women with respect and care for widows who are in genuine need. Leaders honor those who serve well, but address sin openly and fairly, no partiality. Masters and servants encourage respect and integrity in the workplace, even in challenging relationships. So, 17th verse, the elders who direct the affairs of the uh, church well, are worthy of double honor, especially those who work, uh, whose work is preaching and teaching. They deserve double honor. So, Paul's advice emphasizes compassion, fairness, and the dignity of all individuals in the church community. Now, sixth chapter, Paul warns against greed and the final exhortations. Basically, the dangers of greed and the love of money, which can lead people away from the faith. Instead, Paul calls Timothy to pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. So, 11th verse we can see here. Sorry, 10th verse. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. 11th verse, but you, man of God, uh, flee from all this and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. So Paul closes with a charge to Timothy to guard what has been entrusted to him, faithfully teaching and living out the truth of the gospel. Basically, this is what Paul was entrusted, um, faithful teaching and living out the truth of the gospel. So 20th verse, we read this: God, what has been entrusted to your care, turn away from the godless chatter and the opposing ideas of what is falsely called knowledge. So key themes in this letter, first by Paul to first Timothy in his first letter. Uh, Number one, sound doctrine matters. Basically, Timothy is asked with defending. He's tasked with defending and teaching the truth in a culture filled with false teachers and empty speculations. Number two, godly leadership. Church leaders must embody Christ-like character and be equipped to guide others in faith and practice. Number three, prayer and worship. The church should prioritize prayer for all people, recognizing Christ as the mediator of salvation. Number four, godliness in everyday life. Believers are called to live a life of integrity, generosity, service, avoiding distractions like greed or pointless controversies. Number five, faithful perseverance. Paul's personal encouragement to Timothy reflects the importance of staying steadfast in ministry even when faced with challenges. So, why First Timothy matters today? First Timothy remains a cornerstone for understanding church leadership, order, the call to personal holiness. Its principles guide believers in living faithful, disciplined lives rooted in sound doctrine. So, key takeaways for today: guard the truth, lead by example, pursue godliness, and pray consistently. So, may these themes and may these verses inspire us to live faithfully, grounded in truth, as we serve Christ in our daily lives. God bless you.